Welcome to the November the 28th, 1995 pre-taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie, our history tape number 264, as we bring you the history of our city and some of the people that have been very important to the making of that history and continue to live in Grand Prairie at this time. And we're very pleased to have a very special couple here with us today, Mr. and Mrs. Bill Sallee. Welcome, Judith.
Thank you, Ruthie. It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome, Mr. Bill.
Thank you.
We're just so glad to have you two illustrious people with us today to establish a history tape of the Sallees and anything you would like to tell us. And first of all, let's begin with Mr. Bill. And Mr. Bill, this is your camera out front. That's Ruthie the robot over there. And we'd like for you to look at that and tell us all about your genealogy. Anything you'd like to say in about 2 minutes to establish your genealogy.
I was born in Muskogee, Oklahoma. My father was a merchant. His name was William Everett, and he did not want another William, so he named me Billy.
Oh, great.
Shortly after I became aware of what he had named me, I changed it to Bill.
Uh-huh.
But when I went the other day to apply for Social Security, I changed it back to Billy because they were going to give me a lot of money.
Yes, yes.
Born in Muskogee, Oklahoma. Mother's name was Ethel Phoebe, and her maiden name was Youngblood. She was from north of Tulsa. Well, both mother and dad were from north of Tulsa, a little town of Collinsville, Oklahoma.
Okay.
From Muskogee, we lived in several different cities where Dad was in business. And we ended up, well, not exactly ended up, but we moved to McAllister, Oklahoma, and I graduated from high school there and eventually went back there to college after a period of time at the seminary. And then I went in the Navy and stayed in the Navy for a long time, and met Judith, and our lives, that was almost 46 years ago, and our lives have just sort of been intertwined ever since.
All right, now, let's go back to Muskogee. I believe there is a country western fella that says they're Okie from Muskogee. Is that your theme song?
You bet.
How long did you live in Muskogee?
7 years.
7 years. Did you begin school in Muskogee then? Your first grade?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
Your first grade. Do you remember anyone in your first school that was a very special person to you there in Muskogee?
I had a first grade teacher that I fell madly in love with, and I can't remember her name, but Mother always told the story that I cried for 3 days when school was out.
Yes.
Because I would miss her and all my friends. But the one thing I do remember is there was a dance instructor named Bonnie Jean McDougall.
Yes.
I couldn't tell what she looked like or anything, but I remember that name.
Yes.
And we would perform, those of us that took tap dancing,
yes,
from her, would perform in the Ritz Theater on Saturdays as part of the Mickey Mouse Club.
Oh, wonderful.
And I have my original membership card in the Mickey Mouse Club at the Ritz Theater in Muskogee, Oklahoma.
Oh, that is wonderful.
See, in those days...
That was important.
And they had clubs all over America.
Yes.
In local theaters where they showed the Mickey Mouse cartoons.
And from Muskogee, you moved on to McAllister?
Eventually.
Eventually?
Right, yeah.
All right. How about the school in between there? Where did Bill go to school?
I went to junior high,
yes,
first year of junior high in Tulsa.
In Tulsa?
Horace Mann Junior High.
All right. Any favorite teacher, someone that was a mentor to you?
No.
Wiped you out on
In high school, I fell in love with my Latin teacher.
Okay. Let's name drop.
Her name was Kathleen Veith.
Uh-huh.
And it was wonderful. I got to see her again many, many years later. Had a good visit with her, and she was still as charming and sweet as I remembered.
All right, and then on to McAllister, and graduating from there in year of
1946.
1946. That was a good year, wasn't it? All right.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Is there any special teacher at McAllister? person?
That was the Latin teacher.
That was the Latin teacher that influenced your life a
Yeah, you
lot.
bet.
Okay, and we have you to high school, and we know you've mentioned a seminary. We need to know a little bit about that.
Phillips University is
right.
Disciples of Christ Christian Church Seminary. Judith and I both went there, and
Yes.
although different years, it was located in Enid, Oklahoma.
Enid, Oklahoma. Good. That was a good study period. What was your major?
Oh, Bible.
Campusology or Bible?
Bible.
Okay, Bible.
I was very straight-laced,
Yes.
narrow-minded, I'm sure,
Yes.
young lad.
All right. We're going to leave you there for a few minutes and see if we can get you and Judith together a little bit later in the interview. But Judith, would you like to look to your camera and tell us about your genealogy, my dear?
Well, I also was born in Oklahoma. I was born in Enid. My father was with Easton Oil Company. His name was Arthur Wilcuts Lindley.
Lindley? How wonderful.
And my mother was Ruth Letha Feger, F-E-G-E-R. Her grandparents had come from Germany. Her mother made the run into Oklahoma during the strip, and they later lived in Ingalls, Oklahoma, where the Doolins and Daltons had their big shootout. In fact, they and the posse had a shootout over my grandmother, who was laying in the patch, and the bullets were whizzing around all around them, and it was a wonderful story. There's still a celebration every year, and Mother goes.
Yes.
She's 97 now and
Your
lives
mother-
by herself and
How
still
wonderful.
bakes bread and cookies and whatever. So that's just pretty much my background.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I had one brother. He's deceased. He
Would
was
you like to
also-
name drop him so he'll be in your record?
J. Van Lindley,
Okay.
and he lived in Oklahoma City.
All right. And where did Judith begin school?
I began school in Crescent, Oklahoma. It's a small town, just 35 miles north of Oklahoma City. It's very small. We didn't have a Mickey Mouse Club. We didn't have that.
You didn't even have a
we
Ritz
didn't even
Theater or anything,
Well, we
did
had
you?
a theater, and I can
Yes.
remember when it went from a nickel to a dime to
Yes.
attend, and
Yes.
everyone was quite put out.
Yes. All right. Any favorite teacher that you had in Crescent?
I had many, and
Oh,
we've run
yeah.
into them through the years. I go back every now and then and visit with all of them. Way too many to mention. It's we still deal with my high school principal, who later became the dean of the college in Alamosa, Colorado. And when we lived there in Alamosa, we got reacquainted with him. And
Would you like to name drop him?
oh yes, Keats McKinney.
All righty.
And his-
And he was the principal of high school. What high
Yes.
school was that in Crescent also?
Crescent High School.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah,
And
that's
then
wonderful.
at sophomore, my father became ill, and they suggested that he move out of the dusty country, and we
Yes.
moved to San Diego, and I finished high school in San Diego at Herbert Hoover High School.
Herbert Hoover. Was there a special teacher there?
Not really. I wasn't there really long enough. It was such a huge school. I had left a school
Yes.
from first grade through high school was about 300, and we had 586 in our graduation class.
Oh,
so
my.
it was
A big change for
big
Judith.
change, wonderful change, though. Met a lot of people.
How'd you get back to Oklahoma to go to the seminary?
After I graduated, I came back to go because we had known a lot of the campus, and I went back to there.
Back to there. And is that where you met Mr. Bill?
No, I had gone back to, after my father's death, I had gone back to San Diego State.
All right.
And he was in the Navy out there. And
Yes.
for a long time, we were raised just 14 miles apart, and we met again in San Diego.
Had to go all the way to San
Right.
Diego to meet someone
Right.
else from Oklahoma.
Knew the same people.
Yes. And that was wonderful. Did you marry in California or wait
Yes.
till you came back here?
No, we married in California.
In California. Oh, that is wonderful. Now, about children. After you married, we know that you want to name your family, and you have a family portrait that's down below us here, and we want to use that at the end of the show to run our credits, and we just hope that maybe we could get a shot of that while you're naming your family. Would you do
Okay,
that?
our oldest is Charles Michael, and he's on the left in the picture, the one with the beard.
All right.
And our
He's now 44.
He is now 44 years old. That is just really, all right.
And our middle one, the one in, let's see, the one over to the right is our second child, and that was Rebecca Jane. And the one in the center, the tall boy, is Paul Lindley.
And from that Lindley name, he carried on the name.
Yes.
How wonderful. Okay. And
their wives and husbands and our 2 grandchildren.
all right, and we have pictures of our 2 grandchildren.
Oh, yes.
Watch Bill grab. Would you look at that? Yes, now here are our 2 grandchildren.
Alrighty.
Now, name them while they're here now.
This is Ruth Allison Schroeder,
All right.
and she lives in Guthrie, Oklahoma.
Yes.
This is Brandon Campbell Salee. He
Yes.
lives in Arlington.
And he lives in Arlington, Texas?
Yes.
Oh, that is wonderful.
He
And
grows his hair much like your cameraman.
I see. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, he'll be acceptable then to this camera crew we have here today, won't he? Okay, and these are your only 2 grandchildren?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's all we need.
All right, now the reason for
Well,
this...
our son, we have some sort of extra ones. Our son married a lady with 4 children.
Oh, that's great.
And so he has 4 there, and they're raising their grandchildren. So we have 8 and a 10 and 11-year-old
Oh,
in
that's
the state
wonderful.
of Washington that we'll be able to
In
see
the
later
state of Washington, that's where we're going to let you all move to reluctantly?
That's right.
That's right.
To the state of Washington, and where will you be moving there?
Well, we're actually going to move to a little town called Sequim, and it's S-E-Q-U-I-M, but it's pronounced Sequim. He lives in another small town about 2 hours away called Yelm, Y-E-L-M.
Y-E-L-M, okay. We're going to get back with you in a minute, Judith, but we've got to catch up with Mr. Bill.
All right.
After he left the seminary, then what happened to Bill? I know you've been to the Navy.
Yeah.
How long did you serve in the Navy, and where did they take you?
6 years, and they took me to San Diego,
Yes.
where I met Judith.
Yes? Uh-huh.
I spent 6 years in Navy band.
In the
I was
Navy
a musician.
All right, and what did you play?
Whatever
Instruments.
they ordered me to.
And any
My
instrument?
major instrument in college was trombone.
Okay.
And I played that in the Navy band along with a lot of other stuff, piano, drums, cornet, you know.
All around good musician.
Well, when you do it all day, every day, for hours and hours and hours, one instrument gets boring, so you experiment with others.
That's good.
We did a lot of that.
Good. And wasn't it exciting to be picked for the Navy band?
Well, yes. I
That's
thought
an
I was going to
exception.
go in and be a pay clerk, and
Yes.
then I ended up in the band.
All
and
right.
Consequently, it was during the Korean War, but I signed up for 4 years, but I actually served 6 because we musicians were so essential to the war effort that President
Yes.
Truman decided we had to stay.
Well, that's wonderful. I think that is great.
It wasn't wonderful.
Wasn't great,
Not
wasn't
at
great
the
wonderful
time.
for you at the time.
It was all right.
All right.
It worked out fine.
After the Navy, where did Bill go?
Well,
I know Judith went with you, but you tell us where you went. We know she's along.
we traveled around, did a lot of things, lived in a lot of different places, and ended up in 1957 entering. I didn't want to go back and be a pulpit minister, so but I wanted to do youth work. So I went with the Boy Scouts of America as a professional executive and stayed there almost 20 years.
Where were you stationed then?
Well, we started in Colorado and we moved to Iowa and back to Colorado and out to Oregon and to Washington and to Montana and then to Minnesota. And we retired out of there in 1975, came to Texas.
1975?
Next
why,
month, it'll be-
why Texas?
Oh, because the economy was good.
But,
By this time, we had developed a long-standing hobby of collecting, selling, buying antiques.
I see.
And we went on the road as antique dealers.
all right.
And we were actually headed for Oregon. But the further south we worked, the better the business was. And I'd call people in Oregon and they'd say, no, things are terrible up here at that time. And it was booming down here, so we just stayed.
And all of the time you were buying and selling antiques and collecting and doing all this good stuff.
Until we met Irving L. Taggart and Traders Village.
All right. Did you meet him because of your love of antiques, or how did that association come about?
We were merchants at Traders Village.
You were merchants at Traders Village?
Selling antiques, and that's when he came into our house trailer one day, and we had a cup of coffee, and we worked for him 15, 16 years.
And this is after you've already had a career with the Boy Scouts of America and retired from that and gone into antiquing at Traders Village, and then you met Mr. Taggart.
Yes.
All right, Traders Village with them for 16 years.
Yeah.
That is wonderful.
Yeah, it was great.
And what did you do for Traders Village? I know, but our viewing audience does.
Well, I was the director of special events, and Judith was the publisher and owner of the Traders Village newspaper.
Yes.
But she also helped me out with all the special events, and I helped her out with the newspaper.
Yes, all
13 years she had the newspaper every month.
All right. We'll get back, and she's going to tell us how she did all of that good stuff in just a minute. But when you were at Traders Village, can you name some of the special events that you helped to, maybe the ones you helped start or promote? And I know we have all of these buttons here that we need to talk about.
When we got there, the chili cook-off had just, I think it was in its second year.
All right.
And the Indian powwow, they'd had one. So actually, with the Indian powwow, we took over the operation of the Traders tent. Then we were given the assignment to create the Cinco de Mayo fiesta, the Oktoberfest, the draft horse pull, gospel music shows, bluegrass music shows.
Did you do the pickled quail egg thingy?
That was with the chili cook-off, and they had that once, I think, by the time we got there. Doug Beek.
I really wanted to blame that on you, but
well,
go
no,
ahead.
blame that on Doug. Okay?
All right.
That was his idea, and a guy named Alan Hughes. That was pretty well running when we got there. But what I missed, we had all kinds of other stuff.
Oh, the Irish.
St. Patrick's Day celebration. We used to have dog shows.
Automobile shows.
Oh yeah, the antique
autos.
Auto parts and all this swap meet.
And then after you left Traders Village, what did Bill do? Now that's 2 times or 3 times retiring.
Yeah, I took a 2-year leave of absence from Traders Village and served as the Chamber of Commerce Executive Director.
All right. And then you go
then
back.
I went back to Traders Village.
Back to Traders Village.
Stayed there until we got out, and I dabbled in a few things that I'd always wanted to do, and then Judge Cameron Gray had a company he'd been running 25 years called Affordable Weddings.
Yes.
And he was overloaded. He had more work than he could do, so he asked me if I would help him, and I helped him for about a year, and he retired and just turned the company over to us. And we've been running that ever since, and we've been doing
affordable weddings.
Yeah, we do a lot of weddings.
That is great. Now, how about Rotary?
I've been in Rotary 30 plus years.
30 plus years in Rotary. We got a picture of Rotary. I think we have a picture that you made of Rotary not too long ago. You think you could hold that up right under your chin there and see if we could get you and Rotary?
This is the best singing Rotary Club that I was ever in.
Really?
And on 3 different occasions, I've had, twice I had your camera people here come over and photograph us and produce a 30-minute show for cable television.
Yes.
We did that 2 different years, about 3 years apart. But this one we did the other day just for old time's sake. We did this just in October. And boy, they really sang. And they brought their own camcorders down and we recorded that.
Now that is the Grand Prairie Friday Rotary Club?
That's right.
All right, we wanted to clear that up. We didn't want to get it mixed up with the...
We had some of the Metro Club there that day who sang with us. Yeah. And of course now we have lady members of Rotary, women in Rotary, so we have the beautiful voices,
chorus?
like Jerry Larmay's voice and all that, very nice. This has been something.
What are you going to do about Rotary when you leave Grand Prairie?
I've already found out when and where they meet, and I'll just transfer to the Rotary Club in Sequim. They meet at the golf course, which I will enjoy.
You will enjoy that, won't you? Yes. Okay, thank you for letting us look at that photograph. Now, let's get back with Judith. I think we've given you almost equal time, Bill. We need to get with Judith about her career as far as Grand Prairie is concerned, and moving to Grand Prairie, full of antiques and working there. Then tell us about this newspaper spinoff.
Well, we had not done a newspaper before. Mr. Taggart asked us if we would attempt that. I think they had had 1 or 2 issues, and it was a challenge for us. So it was a total mom and pop operation. We sold the ads, we delivered the paper, we did the paste up,
the whole thing.
Interviewed, did the pictures, everything.
Delivered the papers.
And delivered the papers. So we did everything but print it.
About $35,000 a month.
About $35,000 a month, and then delivered them, or did you mail them to different places?
Oh, once a year we did too. We mailed about 20,000 out, but we delivered them to the people at the village and then in different locations around the area.
And have you been keeping yourself busy? This wedding thing, is that taking your time now?
Takes quite a bit of time. A lot of bookings, a lot of all of this.
All of this. That keeps you busy until you get ready to leave from Grand Prairie, Texas. When are you moving?
Well, we're going to go just as soon as our house sells.
Okay.
So we're looking forward to that. I've already started packing a few things that we won't be using. All the summer clothes are all packed away now. Ready to go.
That's a good forecast. All right. What other things are you two involved in? You've given us such a list. You probably don't have time enough to tell us about church or clubs or other organizations you're members of.
We've been members of different organizations through the years and have enjoyed them connected with the special events at Traders Village. But we've been members of the Methodist Church here. We started the interdenominational church at Traders Village. Bill also did all the research for the historical monument out there, and that's all.
The Cross Timbers marker, the state marker that we have out there.
That's right. And we're very proud of starting a church. We've been involved with 2. We worked with Jim and Sharon Blackmore on a Catholic church over in Arlington, raising $1.4 million for a new sanctuary, and we're quite proud of that. When that was completed, we go by with
St. Matthews.
St. Matthews.
St. Matthews.
And then we've had, we started a Korean Baptist church at the village and seen them progress to their own building, and very proud of all those things.
Wonderful. All right, Mr. Bill, anything else you want to talk about on this history tape of yours? Some of the good things you've done? Or weren't you a member of Wranglers?
Wayne Hanks and I and Tag Taggart formed the Wranglers, a labor of love, best group of people I think I was ever associated with.
Marvelous.
And they're still going. There was mainly to promote rodeo and our Western days. And of course, as you know, Western days grew and got to the point where it was a 8-9 day celebration, and a lot of hard work by that group. And of course, I was in some political campaigns. I brought a couple old political signs. You remember this campaign?
Yeah, April the 2nd, elect Wayne Hanks, place 5, Grand Prairie City Council. Oh, yes.
And then remember this one?
Mike Lewis for mayor. Mike Lewis was such a very splendid young man. And we're so sad we've lost him to death.
I really miss him. He was my dearest friend.
Yes.
And his mother is one of the women I admire most.
Yeah.
We've had a wonderful life.
So you've been into politics, you've been into religion, you have been into Rotary and Traders Village, and
Cowboys, you know, you don't get much more of a handicap than that, really.
That is.
We brought 2 dance groups over here to perform at Oktoberfest and in our local high schools. They were from Austria. We would go over there and meet them and find them, and then thanks to the help of Lois Thorne and many other sponsors, we would pay part of their way, and they would come over and they would perform at the State Fair and out of South Fork Ranch and at our Oktoberfest and in our high schools.
Oh, that is wonderful.
And they would stay in the homes of students in our high schools that were studying German. We're very proud of that. There were 21 youngsters each time, and we brought 2 different groups over.
And you'd have to bed and board them while they were here and find places for all of them.
I never knew how many would be there for breakfast.
The school district helped a great deal too.
Oh, that is great.
But we have really had a lot of opportunities had a lot of fun. We've lived here longer than we ever lived anywhere.
How long have you lived in Grand Prairie, Texas now?
It'll be 14 years next
years.
March.
14 years next March.
We've been in the area and around Traders Village. It'll be 20 years next month.
And you've been married
45 and a half.
years.
45 years. How splendid. All right.
J.R. Sutterfield, you know, who was editor of the newspaper, that when I was the opinion editorial writer for J.R.,
yes,
she made the statement that she could not understand how anybody could be married to me for 40 years because most people couldn't stand me for 40 minutes.
And now, wasn't that the quote of the world?
Yeah, everybody in town.
She brings it up quite
Everybody
often,
in town read that and accused me of that on many occasions.
We have only 2 minutes left on our interview. I see all of these buttons and pens that you've brought here, and we're going to take those and pass them on to the historical organization along with the dissertation about the Sallies that you have brought to us today, and we want to thank you for that and for all of the good service that both of you all have given to the city of Grand Prairie. It's been wonderful. But before we leave, I would like for you to look out into your camera, Mr. Bill Sallee, and just say what you would like to about Grand Prairie, Texas for just about a minute.
Well, I believe Judith would agree with me that Grand Prairie is the most unique place that we've ever lived. We've found a great deal of entertainment from politics.
Yes.
Politics in Grand Prairie are fun.
Yes.
And we've enjoyed that. The people here are down to earth and real, and they accepted us and allowed us to make mistakes and to do what we could maybe help the community. And that's been, to be warmly received is about as nice a experience as anyone could have. And we'll always feel good, warm, tender spot in our heart for Grand Prairie.
And do you have a road map from Washington all the way back to Grand Prairie sometime later, Judith, and you going to help me end the show?
Well, of course I will do that, Ruthie. And also the road map goes the other way. We're hoping to have a couple of cottages at least on our cabin in the woods, and so that people can come and visit us.
It's 2,440 miles.
That's a long way.
A long way on a bicycle, but most people fly.
That is true. Well, I want to thank y'all very much for sharing your lives with us and documenting your history, and especially in Grand Prairie, Texas. It's been wonderful to have you as our guest today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I'll always
Bill.
remember your tennis shoes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A little old lady in tennis shoes.
There you go.
And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.